What's up, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. In this video, I'm going to be going over 7 altcoins that I think find a nice balance, equilibrium between not only having high tier and above average gains throughout the many altcoins that I've looked at, going back in their history, looking at prior bull market data, and just seeing how these altcoins perform in the past. These are some of the altcoins, not all of them, but some of them that have shown me to showcase the highest gains, but also they find a nice balance, like I said, between not having these high gains, but they also, in terms of their projects, the protocols within the field of blockchain solutions, cryptographic currencies, really within even the internet, from thinking about Web 2 to Web 3, also obviously finance with DeFi, plenty of different sub aspects that exist within what is blockchain-based cryptographic solutions. But the first coin here is Fantom, and really the purpose of this video is like 7 altcoins, and then obviously you have the big 3 in crypto: Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ethereum. The main point of this video is to showcase 7 altcoins, along with which I'm not going to be going over Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano in this video, but to create a kind of a Big 10, top 10 portfolio for crypto that I think is rather viable. This is not meant to be financial advice, but at the end of the day, I do think these coins have a lot of validity backing them. Nonetheless, again, here for Fantom, the first one, I think potentially around 300 to 1200, as you can see here more precisely in the text box, 300 to 1200x. The blue boxes are going to denote this price range. For Fantom, it's around $47 to $190. First 3 altcoins have a similar layout with these black dotted trends for their resistance. Also horizontal yellow box for sideways resistance. Now, if we look here at the local trend resistance right here, assuming, Bitcoin looks great, just uploaded a video about Bitcoin. If you haven't seen that, I'd recommend seeing that first. If you're new to the content, really go back and check that to kind of the general preface, a broad preface for where this market's going, because Bitcoin at the end of the day basically controls the flow of the cryptocurrency market. But the more local downtrend is pointing to around 60 cents, assuming Bitcoin continues to go up and altcoins continue to go up, and to the last one and final uptrend for this bull market. But there's also a volume vector zone also at around like 50 to 60 cents. It's going to be further validating this trend line. The more macro upper trend of the resistance sits somewhere around, depending upon when, but just roughly around 90 cents to $1. $1 being the lower bound of the sideways horizontal range here, then the upper bound of that being around $1.60 to $1.70. If you look here at the RSI, really all these indicators are highly oversold or undervalued for the asset. The RSI is showcasing a hidden bullish divergence with the price, as you can see, setting what seems to be right now at the very least a low and then a higher low, where the RSI went set a low, then it set a lower low, and which I'll point out, see this on a few of these altcoins are doing almost the same thing in terms of like the build up into the actual bull market. So we see these altcoins build up as it's breaking these resistances as I've denoted, leading into the actual bull run, or the parabolic move that the altcoins will see at some point later on down the road, whenever Bitcoin's actually getting closer to its all-time high. But again, RSI highly oversold, undervalued. Same thing goes for really all the other indicators, and this is kind of something we'll see throughout all these altcoins as I continue to go over them. Second, Theta, and I'll have the links for all of these, the websites for each of these altcoins, if they even have them, in the description. I've also gone over these coins more in depth in past videos, and I'll likely go back and find those, link those as cards if you're interested, and just hearing somebody talk about it rather than going and reading it yourself for whatever reason. But here for Theta, and these are all generally in the order of highest gains to lowest gains, but all of these, like I said, still have higher tier, even above average gains. And outside of some meme coins just doing crazy percentages like 1 million or even higher, because they're so cheap and it's a meme coin, very sporadic, it's spontaneous at the end of the day. But for Theta, I think around 192 to 460x Price range is going to be around $114 to around $247 approximately. Again, we see the sideways range, two downtrends. One's already been broken. The upper one, similar to the more local downtrend resistance I was showing for Theta. Right now, getting above the 200 EMA, sitting around $1.60. The trend line sits around $1.75. I would say important values to watch out for. Once it starts to get back above around $1.80, it's going to get back above all of the EMAs, which will be very good. Also, the sideways range sits at around $4.17 to around $8.88. There's no vector zones above in terms of volume control that I see here that could potentially weigh it down rather than just general, looking at the past price data and where potential resistances and support could be found as the price continues to go higher, assuming that it is actually going to do so. Again, RSI, similar to Theta. This is one of the ones that looks similar to Theta. You actually will see, if you look here at this, look here at the way Theta is building up here, we can kind of see these two peaks right here, these two lows, kind of broadening, almost like a upwards tilted megaphone structure. We see the same thing here for Theta as well, seeing this kind of upwards tilted megaphone structure where the RSI is doing the inverse of that, where we see, like I said, this hidden bullish divergence. Like I said, Fantom seeing it, Theta seeing it. Also highly oversold, highly undervalued on all the indicators, which, like I said, I'm not going to go over the other two, but the RSI showcases pretty much everything. The stock RSI, the RBI could show you. Now, lastly, if you look here at this fractal right here, which this is a fractal of a coin that I'll go over later, but you can see how very similar this looks to it. If I just bring it right over it to where you line it up properly, you can really see it's basically doing the exact same thing. You see these two lows right here, two lows right here, similar downtrend right here. We kind of see like an ABCD pattern. And you see a low, lower low, lower low. Same thing happened for Theta. And we see the same build-up structure. Now this fractal is for XYO. This will be the one I'll go over here after Matic. I think around 171 to 438x. Price range is going to be around 53 to around $140. Again, similar sideways range, macro resistance, local resistance. Something very interesting here about Matic is that it's testing its absolute lows within the prior bear market, which none of these altcoins are doing, that I'm going over in this video at least, and not too many even really kind of look like Matic does here. I think it's got a pretty unique looking structure compared to a lot of other altcoins. I also think this is one of the more viable coins in terms of the project and use case, in terms of the integrity of that, than a lot of these other ones that I'm going over, but the gains aren't as high as the first two that I went over. Right now, important in terms of local resistance, and there's a small vector volume control zone here, basically 58.60 cents. The upper macro resistance is sitting, again, it depends upon when, Bitcoin continues to go higher, when this coin's going to actually break this macro resistance, if it even will do so. I could totally be wrong about every single one of the coins I'm going over in this video, but at the end of the day, I'm more inclined to believe that I'm not, but I definitely know that it can be. But around 90 cents to $1, this for this macro resistance. The sideways range sits at around $1.40 approximately to around $1.90. If we look here at the RSI, also highly oversold. All the indicators, stock RSI oversold, RVI undervalued. And we even see the RSI looking similar to how Theta was looking on the RSI, Fantom was looking on the RSI, and also for the price as well. But Matic just doesn't look the same price-wise. Like I said, it looks very similar RSI-wise, but price-wise, for whatever reason, instead of doing something along these lines and kind of stopping like right in this area and continuing higher, Matic has continued to even dump lower all the way down to the sideways zone we see here for the bottom range for Matic. But nonetheless, there are still a lot of similarities between those three. So I got all the way done with the video and forgot to include one of the altcoins. Video's about 7 altcoins, but I go over 6 and didn't even realize I went over 6. Anyways, what was supposed to be the 4th altcoin is Ankr. Here we can see this layout is similar to what we saw for Matic, Theta, and Fantom in terms of horizontal resistances and these macro downtrend resistance. Local resistance. It'd be nice to see Ankr get above around 3.5 pennies, roughly, approximately in that area, up to around 4 pennies. Horizontal wise, around 6 pennies to around 10 cents, 6 cents, 10 cents. And then that's going to be roughly the same when it comes to this macro resistance right here, in terms of these 2 double tops and the trend that lays forth out into the future. I think this is going to be around 135, 350x. Price target for that's going to be around $2 to around $5. Again, similar stance to the RSIs as I lay out throughout this video and have so far. This one doesn't particularly look as oversold, although I do need to readjust this a little bit. Depends upon where I draw this RSI. I'm not really fond of drawing right there. I draw it more about, let's just say right here, and kind of forego all this area down over here. You can see a little bit more of a connection in how oversold it is, being in this orange territory. We're also seeing the similar structure here on Ankr as we do for, as I went over for Fantom, Theta, and also XYO as well, or we'll go over as I'm editing this into the video already recorded. But we see this kind of movement right here, this upwards, so I've already gone over. We see this upwards movement, and this upwards tilted bullish megaphone. We're seeing same thing on the RSI, with it being in some sort of hidden bullish divergence. Even if I readjust the RSI, still you can see how oversold it is in comparison to, I mean, it's basically as oversold as it was roughly like mid bear market range. So I mean, it's basically equivalent to past price when the RSI was roughly this oversold as well. Still a very similar scenario nonetheless, with all these being oversold highly and also undervalued. Here for XYO, the 4th coin, and I don't have the I forgot to put the little potential how much in terms of percentage gains and how many times it'll exit itself in terms of low to high. But the main thing that I want to point out for this chart is the fact that, take all the drawings out of the way, is that I'm not sure when TradingView added this chart, but there has not been a XYO to USD pair chart on TradingView that has had the entire historical price data for XYO until when I stumbled upon this a few days ago. Now, the last time I even looked to see if they'd updated it was maybe no later than around approximately a year and a half ago. But nonetheless, very happy to see they have a full data chart here for the XYO USD pair. Now, this uptrend, this Fibonacci, actually, it's a modified pitchfork. It still uses Fibonacci extensions. This uptrend, this up channel, very macro year-to-year uptrend and channel that XYO has been in, as we can see. I've already shown that in past videos. But this coin, I believe, is going to be anywhere from around 164x to at highest around a 650x approximately. Now, I think what's more likely is, as I've said many times in the past, so that's somewhere around a 170x to around a 370x, so anywhere from around 50 cents to $1. I think that is a very critical sweet spot for XYO. I think it's very reasonable. I think it's very valid in terms of technical analysis, looking at past history and performance, factoring in Bitcoin and how that fluctuates altcoins over time. We're finding critical bounces within this modified pitchfork channel, which is connected from candle close low prior this bear market back here, March 16th, roughly 2020, to the all-time high XYO set in the last bull market, November 8th, 2021, to the candle close low of the most recent bear market, September 18th of 2023. And then also along with the 50 cent to $1 range lining up with past performance, percentage-wise, it is also lining up with the exact same range. Within, you can see these highs back here, where when XYO started trading was at highs, had a bear market, went up in a bull market, met the exact same range, topped out. Will we see something similar? I think fairly likely. Although, again, like I said, it could be wrong. XYO also could continue to go lower, even if Bitcoin continues to go higher here. XYO is kind of a weird trader and a weird mover, as I've picked up watching it since about, I mean, really definitely going all the way back since the prior all-time high. But again, for the indicators, really all the same thing. I do want to point out the uptrend here on the RSI, with the RSI getting very close to it recently. Again, highly oversold, doing the exact same type of RSI movement that Fantom and Theta were doing. Again, like I said, you see the same movement right here for XYO as you saw for Fantom and Theta, where you see this kind of upwards tilted megaphone, two tops, two lows. With RSI, like I said, doing a similar thing. If we look here at the stock RSI, this will be one of the few charts I go over all the indicators, because this is one of my main coins that I'll be going over in this video in terms of my own personal interest. Stock RSI is more oversold than it was going all the way back to the low, when the first low sideways range, when it's up to double bottom, going all the way back to December, late December 2022. Stock RSI is more oversold than it was all the way back there. The price is quite higher. If you look here at the RVI, Bollinger Bands are highly compressed. At its, again, highly just undervalued, oversold range. The RVI line has been, the purple line, has been coiling up, and it's now breaking towards the upside here. Again, Bitcoin continues to go up. All these altcoins are going to, I think, ultimately, I think alt season will start within the next... I think alt season will really start to begin at earliest late this year and beginning of 2025. But the last thing here for XYO is these Fibonacci time tools. Now, I am, and I would advise taking this with a grain of salt, but I just find it's interesting. I've never really been too fond of using Fibonacci time tools. I never really found them too useful, but for whatever reason, there's some sort of trend and pattern that's popping up here that could play out similar as it did during the prior bull market. Now, see this first Fibonacci time tool drawn right here. It starts from the highest candle close open. Really, it was the beginning of the data for XYO on this chart. So we have a candle high drawn to when the lowest candle close was, bear market low, prior bear market. And we see the 1.618 correlated with this, really the first major peak in the bull market, and the 1.836 is what landed right on top of really the second peak, but really, I mean, it was the first peak of this double top that XYO set. And I think that, which just factors in my phase cycle theory for Bitcoin and how I, kind of project that into altcoins in order to project how altcoins might move. Again, because like I said, Bitcoin really fluctuates everything in this market. Throughout bear and at the bull markets and these future iterations of it. We also will see at the 1.414 to 1.5, we see this second bottom, last bottom of the bear market being set, and then price goes absolutely parabolic. Now, overall, what I think we're seeing XYO do here is we're coming down. We set this double bottom, which ended up being a very macro W, leading into a bull market top. And I think what we're seeing now is basically something like this, where we kind of see more rounding out for the first bottom, see this uptrend leading into we could see 1.93, this purple line. Let's see if I can increase the size of these lines here real quick. You can see a little bit better. We see this purple vertical line, the 1.293, leading into the 1.414, into the 1.5, as we're setting the second bottom, just as Bitcoin, or rather XYO, has been doing here recently. Again, so we see these massive W. I think we're seeing this massive W like here as well, leading into bull market. We can also see both of these two bottoms for this double bottom happen below the 786, down towards the very bottom of this modified pitchfork channel. And that was the last thing for this. making sure. So here for Jasmy, as I've said many times in the past when I've gone over this coin, I have no idea where this coin's going. I can't find enough data going back in time for me to provide any viable or reasonable projection into the future as to what value, or what value range rather, that it may top out at. All I know is that this has been one of the better performers so far, since all these altcoins are generally topping or bottoming out in the same bubble of time, roughly along with Bitcoin as well, obviously. But so far, Jasmy's up 1,300%. And even so, from lowest low, if it just retests the all-time high that's on here, then Jasmy would have moved 91,000%. That is something that rivals Fantom, which is the best mover in terms of gains. Historically speaking, obviously that could definitely change in this upcoming bull market, but historically speaking, with past data, Fantom is actually not only the highest gainer in this video, but the highest gaining altcoin that I have seen out of the very, hundreds that I've looked at. Now, if it goes just a little bit higher, I actually think the all-time high, this doesn't even go all the way up. I think the all-time high sits somewhere around like $4.27, which is, yeah, that's actually why I have the bottom of this yellow, this zone drawn right here. So if it just retests the prior all-time high, that's 156,000% move. That is rivaling the 200,000% that Fantom did the first time around. Now, I don't think this upcoming bull market will be as bullish as the ones in the past. It's also just not wise or even really logical to think that the bull market's always going to be precisely and exactly the same. They're always going to be, what I look for is similarity, rather than, it's seeing a coin do the exact same thing every single time. Now, there will be certain segments of price action that look very similar to past history, really, for the entire history of a coin. Bitcoin is the one that showcases that, especially with the phase cycle theory, the epic theory that I go over on this channel. But at highest for Fantom, if let's say it pushes $10, that's a 370,000% move. I mean, that's the highest that I've seen. It might be, this coin might end up being the best mover for this entire bull run, excluding some meme coins that are insanely cheap, and they have that weird impetus behind them that can just absolutely parabolically catapult them to million, like Shiba Inu, the last bull run, millions of percent, and other obviously altcoins, like I said, they just go absolutely crazy. But I mean, indicator wise, it's just not enough data. There's an uptrend right here. If Jasmy continues to go lower, I'd be looking out for approximately a penny and a half. If Jasmy ends up closing below that and Bitcoin's still going up and a lot of altcoins are still going up, then this coin, may not enter a large, big time pump into a bull market, and or maybe it's just going to correct a little bit and deviate from how altcoins look and even Bitcoin look, and it'll just really lag behind Bitcoin and other altcoins, which is totally possible as well. And then here for the last altcoin, Dogecoin, again, meme coin, doesn't really have a use case project wise. I mean, a lot of people want it to become the world's currency, but I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense logically for this to ever become a genuine currency, especially in terms of like being somewhat, to some degree or form, identified with like a nation state or some sort of government. There's some general body of people outside of the kind of like online internet community that is Dogecoin, and really kind of like this weird, or not necessarily weird, but interesting psychological impetus that's behind Dogecoin. And really, is it even just that? Is it the fact that it has this kind of like cult online meme coin following behind it? Is that really what makes Dogecoin pump at the end of the day? I mean, Dogecoin is one of the coins you can see here that has the most price data. It goes all the way back to the end of 2013. That's just roughly on a year to 2 years, and not just roughly a year to 2 years, around 4 years roughly after Bitcoin came out. And it was making, before it even became big in the prior bull market, and went from around 1/10 of a penny all the way up to 3/4, or approximately 75 cents. prior bull market was a 22,000% move. That's in the higher tier gains out of all the altcoins I've looked at. I mean, low tier is like, you know, let's just start at 1,000, going up to around 5 to 8, and once you start pushing 10, 12, 15, then you start to like enter like mid tier. Then once you start pushing like that 20,000 or higher, that's when I start to consider like high tier. And then anything over like 30,000 to 40,000 is what I consider to be above average. And then obviously you have things like Fantom that are just completely out of the water. But if we look here at these time tools, you can see each of these bear markets leading into just moments before we see this parabolic leap in price for Dogecoin. I'm going to round each of these up, but you can clearly see the precise measurements. So we have 160 bars, 150 bars, and 170 bars. All, you know, roughly in the ballpark of 1,000 to 1,200 days. But like I said, these are all in the same ballpark. I mean, I draw, you know, a fairly small sized bubble around each of the endpoints of these measurement tools. We can see that Bitcoin is within the ballpark. It's within a bubble of time going all the way back to the right before the first bull market for Dogecoin. And it's not only time-wise doing the exact same. RSI looks very reminiscent to past history. Highly oversold, excuse me, highly undervalued as well. I said undersold, I meant to say oversold. But not only is it meeting all of these interesting and confluential historical criteria for, you know, as a bull market on the horizon. You know, Bitcoin looks great, but if we see here these two patterns that I have, what does this look? This looks like Fantom. It looks like Theta. Like I said, Matic looks similar, but the price is really just drifting down very heavily. But really, like I said, so Fantom, Theta, XYO, and then Dogecoin, they're all doing this exact same movement where we kind of see this upwards tilted megaphone structure. We see the RSI doing the exact same thing as well. It did it back here. So this first pattern is from 2022, March of 2020 to November 2020. And then this one right here, the second one, is what it's done currently. And we can even see, looking at the RSI, did the exact same structure. We see the structure. We see this upwards tilted, kind of like bull phone or megaphone, this bullish structure. We're seeing the same thing right here as well, like I said. I think this, I mean, again, as always, I could totally eat my words. Dogecoin could collapse. Everything else goes up over the next few days, few weeks, few months, next year. But looking at history, I think it's more likely to assume that Bitcoin, or Dogecoin rather, is going to continue to go up. And lastly, I didn't even touch on the price target to begin with. Approximately 40x to 550x price range is around approximately $2, two at highest around $27. Now, if it goes up to around 20, anywhere within the, well, around 25, 26, $27, Dogecoin is it would be worth around, like, if I remember correctly, ballpark range on like $3 to $3.5 trillion in terms of its market value. Now, I have said in the past, and I still believe so, that the altcoin, like the total crypto market value chart 3 that just shows everything but take away Bitcoin and take away Ethereum, it still unfortunately includes Cardano, but this is as altcoin as you can get, the total 3 chart. I think it's anywhere from around, you know, anywhere from around 3 trillion to 6 trillion. Now, if that ends up playing out, then I don't think there's any good reason that Dogecoin is going to go to around $20 to $27. I think then what would be more likely is that Bitcoin, or Dogecoin rather, is only going to see around a 4,000% move from lows, which is going to take it to approximately $2.50 to $3. And basically this, what we see in this last bull market for Bitcoin right here, only this first impulse would be seen and the second impulse would not end up occurring. But if, you know, let's say the altcoin market value ends up going higher than I think, obviously, as well as the entire crypto market value goes higher than I've been saying in past videos, you know, Bitcoin could push around, you know, maybe, you know, anywhere from $20 to $27. It looks something like this not exactly, but it's something. This is kind of just to elaborate and paint out what I'm saying. We'll see not only this first impulse, but we'll see this correction in this second impulse right here, taking it to double digits rather than around somewhere around like $2 to $3 or something like that. But so the final thing I want to talk about here is the Bitcoin dominance. This gives a lot of insight as to when altcoin season is going to begin. I have to zoom out quite a bit here. Well, actually, let me point this out first. So really kind of what we see here for this Bitcoin dominance is we're seeing kind of like a little W right here. I think, as I have painted out here, that the dominance, you know, it could definitely, because Bitcoin still has, I think, one major impulse towards the upside. I think we'll see likely the dominance trickle up, maybe not this high, but just maybe continue to trickle up a little bit higher, and then eventually kind of lose this trend line, this support, rough trend support we can see right here. As altcoin season, as Bitcoin's topping out, beginning to go down, and altcoin season is really starting to begin. Like I said, I think late this year, early next year is when that kind of, you know, that we can put a bubble around time where I think we'll start to see this. You know, Bitcoin's hit its all-time high, dying down. Unless Bitcoin, you know, tops out sometime around like February, March of next year, then obviously, you know, altcoin season would begin sometime after that. But late this year, early 2025, I think things will really be close to ending, and all, you know, coins that are going to make a new high will set that new high. Now, if you look here, and like I said, it is unfortunately more scrunched up than I'd like it to be. Let me actually move these up a little bit so you can see the price down here a little bit better. So if we look here, the Bitcoin dominance set this double top. First top was set intermediate high in 2019 as Bitcoin is hitting around 13K. Then Bitcoin entered to the March crash, had this impulse into 64K. As Bitcoin was hitting 64K, the Bitcoin dominance was dying off, and this is when a lot of the altcoins were transitioning from this bullish build-up phase, which is what I've been going over and what all these other prior altcoins have been doing so far. And now I think we're leading into, at least I think it's quite likely that Bitcoin, or rather the altcoin market's leading into its alt season. We're seeing this Bitcoin dominance start to reach its, what I think is going to be set for this local high. It's a lower high, and it will eventually, you know, enter into a downtrend, which is what correlates to alt season. And also what we can see here is that the Bitcoin dominance is also bottoming out clearly along with Bitcoin. And then as Bitcoin began its uptrend, like I said, the Bitcoin dominance was seeing that uptrend. And really, I think at this point, the question is whether or not, which this doesn't really have much to pertain outside of when the altcoins are going to bottom out. Whenever, actually, let me go back to it. Whenever we saw, so most of the altcoins topped out, I would say at least maybe approximately half of them topped out when Bitcoin's topping out at around March, April, May. This is when really the first local low, and actually if you look here at the Bitcoin dominance, for all intents and purposes, the low was known going all the way back here to the Bitcoin dominance when it correlates to 64K, because we see this wick all the way down to the wick lows. But then a lot of altcoins also topped out and made their all-time highs October, November 2021, when the Bitcoin dominance had already been in that downtrend and was going sideways. But it will be, like I said, we'll see some sort of inverse correlation between the dominance and the altcoins topping out. When the Bitcoin dominance is in its lows and bottoming out, that's when altcoins are topping out, and vice versa. But outside of that, I believe that was everything that I went over. Hopefully I did not forget to point out any price targets or anything like that. I don't believe I did. But as always, just to reiterate, none of this is meant to be financial advice. I just thought, not necessarily thought, but I think these altcoins have a lot of promise to them for this balance reason, like I was going over earlier. But as always, hopefully enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.